Motion to excuse.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to item number 3, the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dr. Cannon?
Yes, the minutes from the last board meeting are contained in your packet. If there's no questions or comments, take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And I believe we have no speakers, so we are going to move on to item number 6.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Really happy to be here this morning to announce that our north side and our south side wastewater treatment plants have received national awards for peak performance for calendar year 2021. And obviously I had very little to do with that. But I'd like to invite Mr. Matt Horahan, our Assistant Director of Operations, and then Mr. Milton Van and his leadership team up to the podium to present and receive the awards. Come on, guys. Yeah, just. All right.
Good morning.
Morning.
So, as Carl said, very happy to be here with you all, with this great team, and recognize them as the National Association of Clean Water Agencies did recently for outstanding wastewater treatment operations and excellence in permit compliance. So, both of the plants, the Northside Wastewater Treatment Plant and Southside Treatment Plants, received the 2022 Gold Peak Performance Awards by NACWA, specifically recognizing their members with no National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit violations for the entire calendar year. The 2022 awards reflect the permit compliance for calendar year 2021. In addition to the operations team, our maintenance staff is also a significant part of that, and working together and reacting to all of the scenarios and issues that come up throughout the year to maintain that compliance. They deliver consistent, reliable wastewater treatment services to our customers, the community, and the environment for many years, not just last year. But this is the first year we've been recognized by NACWA for the phenomenal efforts by the staff of these two vital facilities. It should also be recognized that the effects of the pandemic were of great significance during 2021, and their work as frontline environmental first responders was unwavering, as it continues every day, no matter the challenges. So with that, I'd first like to present the Northside plant staff. So Milton Van and his staff members for Northside are Jeff Cermak, the plant superintendent, the plant operations superintendent, and Tristan Rickaba, our operations supervisor. So Milton, here you go. And for Southside, we've got Steve Stiers, the plant supervisor and operations supervisor, which is Rob Gunter. So Milton, for Southside. And that's it. I think what's most important is these gentlemen really supervise the operations team and relay those issues that I talked about with the maintenance staff. It's a 24/7 operation, as you know, at those two facilities. These gentlemen are on call all year long and ready to respond at a moment's notice. So their great work has been happening year after year. This is just the first year for these awards, so we expect more to come. Thank you.
Thank you all. As an environmental person, I know the work that goes in and day out. So that is no small feat. Thank you all.
I hope that gets to the paper for somebody.
Soon.
They need to hear that, people that read that rag.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. So we have 5 items on the consent agenda. Any questions on that? All right, can I get a motion to approve? Oh, and do we need to?
He's came back in, so
Good,
it's
he's good.
automatic.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
all right.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to new business, administrative reports.
I do not have a report, but I do need to go into closed session. And Ken wanted me to tell you it would be long, a long closed session. I'll make it as short as possible, I promise.
Yes.
It will be to discuss a claim and to discuss CFPUA versus Comores and DuPont.
Executive Director's report?
We have 3 standing items on the agenda that we bring forward: the key indicators report, the environmental report, safety report. Staff are here to take questions on any of those 3. Hearing none, I do have some miscellaneous information to share. You should see in the executive committee agenda component that we reported out on several sampling initiatives as our standard policy. These are informational items only, but we wanted to make sure that you are aware of those. Also to be aware that under the executive committee, you will see the first strategic plan update. That is actually on your table. With the executive committee's consent, we're going to present that every month and then move that to my executive director's report section as a 4th report to give you opportunity to ask questions. This first presentation will again be under executive committee, and you'll have opportunities to have questions there. That's it for my report.
Moving forward to committee reports. So the executive committee, we met last week, September 7th. The minutes from that meeting are in your packet. What wasn't included is a handout you all have is the strategic plan update. So this is what Ken was just referencing, that he will then present it in future executive director updates. So that information is included. If anyone has any questions, Elizabeth is here to answer questions. That's okay.
I can't.
Or John, okay. All right, hearing none, moving on to long-range planning. Mr. Smith?
Yes, long-range planning met on August 25th, and there are 3 items, informational items in your packet to read over. I'd recommend looking over all 3 of them, as they're interesting in terms of the long-term plans for the utility authority. But I was not at the meeting. I can't answer questions, but somebody can if there's any questions. Hearing none, that's our report.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, Finance Committee, Mr. Knowles?
Yes, the minutes of our September 7th meeting are in your packet for your review. And I'll ask John to present the August financials.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we're kind of in this in-between time where we're closing out FY22, but we're obviously in the new fiscal year in FY23. So I wanted to kind of show you a look at both, kind of where the final, I guess not quite finalized numbers, because we're still waiting on the audit opinion for FY22, but wanted to show you the entire year for FY22 and then show you 1 month through the year for FY23. So this is a look at the entire year for FY22 on a modified accrual or budgetary basis. You won't find these numbers in our ACFR. That's on a full accrual basis. But this is kind of where we ended up in terms of our fund balance. You can see that, let's see, I think this is the right one. Down here, our unassigned fund balance, 55 or so $million. We'll need to back out some carry forwards out of that number. Those are basically, encumbrances or orders that we made in FY22 that did not get delivered and we did not pay for them in FY22. So our budget ordinance gives us the authority to carry monies forward in order to fund those things. The largest piece of that are the meters for customer service. That there was, I can't remember what it was, like a 5-month lead time on those. So still looking to get those, I think maybe, hopefully later this month. But yeah, we would need to back those out. So we're looking at a surplus this year of around $4.8 or so million. We will likely be recommending when the audit is done is when we make this recommendation that money goes to fund a capital reserve for the South Side treatment plant project. We're getting updated cost estimates for that project. It's budgeted in the CIP right now for I think 153 or 150, but kind of taking a look at that. And that's going to be, I think, starting design in 24? 2024. So that's a very, very large project that's on the horizon, and we kind of want to do everything that we can to be mindful of rates, so using that $4.8 million to set aside for that project will reduce the amount that we have to borrow for that project and save our ratepayers interest, basically. So that's a look at FY22. This is 1 month in to FY23. You really can't say a whole lot, about this. It's 1 month's worth of operations. I guess one thing I did want to point out is down here. You see how this unassigned fund balance is down at 44.3 or so $million. And why that is kind of compared to the prior month is we've already backed out or transferred over to the capital funds the PAYGO appropriation for FY23. So that money is basically sitting up in this number, and as it gets spent, that number will come down, and this number will come up. And if that number, the unassigned fund balance at 44.3, this year, FY23, is over the $50 million, that will be another surplus. If it's below it, that will be a deficit that we'll have to resolve in one way or the other. So just wanted to kind of point out, we've made some changes to how this fund balance is being presented, and just wanted to kind of show you, kind of the difference, going from one year to the other. So are there any questions?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Investment earnings. It's like last year they were down, but this year for the first month, they're up. What are we doing this year?
So that is just a function of rising interest rates. So our investments that are now rolling off last year, basically those purchases that were made were at lower interest rates. And as rates rise, the values of those lower yielding securities are, the price of those are less, right, as the market rates are higher. So I guess one thing that I need to say is that's not only, cash coming in from interest and coupon payments and stuff like that. It's also unrealized market gains and losses. So we had these unrealized losses that were just paper losses because we had these older securities that were, yielding relatively low as interest rates went up very, very quickly. Those were losses, but those losses are going to reverse out, and that's what you're seeing this year as those things approach maturity. I think the other thing that we're seeing too is we have recently been buying out a lot as interest rates have been going up. So you're seeing some of that as well. So it's just a product of the very rapid rise in interest rates that we've seen. Any other questions?
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, we do have an informational item, payments with legacy account numbers. Those were included in your packet. If we don't have any questions, we'll move on to number 4, which is $60,000 contract amendment with Itinerus for customer enhancements. This is an action item, actually, not just informational, and I'll ask our executive director to report on that.
Yes, so as part of the development of our budget, we included $60,000 in operating funds to cover reconfiguration costs to provide customer-facing enhancements to our customer service system. Because this contract amendment is greater than $50,000, it requires board authorization. I will note that 14 days ago, we had a series of local news media reports around some of our customer service delivery problems with e-billing. So I exercised the executive director's authority to execute this contract to facilitate that. We wanted to make sure we were solving customer problems as fast as possible. So I'm asking you to confirm that action through the approval of this contract amendment. Do you have any questions? Kristen's here to answer them in detail.
What does it do? I mean, how does it improve on change?
There are several things. One of the things that, the very first thing that's on the agenda to be done is moving e-billing and the method in which the customer receives notification that their bill is ready to view. So that's the first thing. We're also moving over our bank draft from Bank of America over to Paymentus as well. We're moving over the IVR so that it is also through that same system. It gives us more robust opportunities for call, to make managed calls out in case of an outage or some other sort of emergency that we don't currently have. So there are multiple customer enhancements. Another one is the advanced payment methods, which includes customers being able to make payments through Venmo or Apple Pay or Google Pay, Walmart Pay. So those are all things that we're looking at, but the very first one is the e-bill because we know that that has been an issue in how it's being delivered.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So it's really just a more specialized software service to our industry.
That's correct. That's correct.
Thanks for clarifying that, Lou.
No, I didn't know until she started talking about it.
Will the end user have to do anything different on their end once this new software goes into effect?
So, so with each one, there may be some changes, and that was discussed at the July meeting as well. With the way that the e-bills are currently being sent, they get a message, an e-message or an email that says, that there is a link for a PDF document that's attached right to this email. And a lot of the messages are going out right to the customers. The problem is that the email vendors are blocking it. So Yahoo is blocking it, either because of the quantity that is coming through, the speed that is coming through. There's multiple reasons. With the way that they will be going out, they'll actually get a message similar to what Duke does or GFL or, your gas company, Piedmont. They send something and they say, your bill is ready to view. And it gives a very brief summary, account number, due date, amount, and then it has a link that takes you to their site where you use your credentials to sign in to view your account, okay? So that is different, because right now they click on a link, gives you a PDF. This way they'll actually have to log into the customer self-service portal in order to see their bill. But they'll not only see this bill, they'll see all of their bills that we've generated since we've been using UMAX. So it has all of that historic knowledge there as well. They can also make payments from the same site.
Commissioner Barfield, the last report that I saw suggested something more than 1,000 individuals will have to initiate an account with customer self-service to better utilize our site.
That's correct. And we have prepared the messaging to go out to these customers. We're actually going to send it to all of them because there probably is a number of the customers that have actually set up their self-service account that may have done it at the very beginning of when, you know, we went to the new billing system, and they may not have used it since then. So it gives very detailed information on how to sign up. And of course, our staff stands ready to answer any questions that they have.
Thank you. I know my wife pays our bill, but it's, I guess, drawn out every month electronically. And although the bill's in my name, the challenge is her logging into
Sure.
stuff. So we'll make sure we're on top of stuff so we don't have a water cut off.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Will the user pay any convenience fees if there's a Venmo, Apple Pay, things like that?
They do, and it's similar to what they currently pay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same amount.
Christie, will there be any penalty to any of our customers because of this snafu, which ironically, we've encouraged them to go to this, and then they weren't receiving their bills or receiving it in the way, they were confusing, and may not have gotten paid. Are we backing out any penalties?
Yes,
Or?
late fees are being removed if they, you know, when they're incurred. And there, to Mr. Burfield's point, there are a number of customers that are also on auto draft. So even if they're not getting their bill, you know, the account is being drafted and they're avoiding those fees, or they may be set up on a recurrent payment method like a credit card through our site.
So auto draft gets no fees, correct?
That is correct.
That's the route we chose.
Right.
Not paying any fees.
This situation is it's not unlike so many other facets of our everyday life. It's gonna be a generational thing. 20, 30 years from now, you won't ever have these issues because these people that are coming along, they're born and raised with computers, and you've got half our customers out there that aren't.
Right.
And it's a challenge to them, and they get frustrated. So I know that your folks over there have the patience of Joe. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Contract amendment comes as a motion from finance.
We have a motion, you need a second?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Moving on to Sustainability Committee, Dr.
Yes, we actually, I think, have an action item today. Ms. Eckert's going to present. We met on August 25th, and we actually made some decisions around spending priorities for reducing our carbon emissions. And we made some decisions around timeline for goals and benchmarks and measuring. So we were going to include it as informational, but we need to have a vote on it.
Okay. First of all, I want to personally thank you guys for your commitment to our community and the organization by approving the strategic plan. I don't get up here very often to talk, so I don't get the opportunity to tell you thank you. So I want to do that while I'm up here. It really shows a big commitment to our community, our organization, by approving the strategic plan that provides us, our staff, with good guidance while also challenging us to continue to improve. So I really, as somebody who's been with this organization for 14 years, I really do appreciate the guidance and the strategic plan as we move forward. So I am talking to you today because Catherine Pullman, who is our sustainability director, who did the presentation, she is in Milwaukee, which is also part of another part of our strategic plan, sending our staff to get more training. So she's in Milwaukee learning more about, with the U.S. Water Alliance, learning more about the sustainability efforts that other water utilities are doing. So I'm talking to you today to give you an update and a summary of what she presented that day. So she presented on the strategic plan, which is the carbon emissions reduction goal. So as a reminder, the goal is being set to support the strategic initiative, manage processes and programs to reduce our carbon footprint. She began her presentation with a greenhouse gas emissions update, which was the emissions update for the last 3 years. That's in your packet, but as a summary, the 2019 goals to 2019, 2020, and 2021 are in there. And there's been a consistent downward trend from 17,324 annual metric tons to 12,267 annual metric tons, which equates to a 2.4 annual metric ton CO2 equivalents per million gallons of 2.4 down to 1.9. So we are seeing over the last 3 years a consistent downward trend. So in doing that, we set a baseline of 2019 and brought that forward in the presentation. So looking forward towards a goal, it required us to look back at the various different paths that we could go and also look at the best management practices of the utilities, other utilities, as well as other industries on how to manage carbon emissions. The Institute for Environmental Management and Assessment defines carbon best management practices in 4 phases. The first two phases involve looking inward, looking at your organization to find win-win solutions for efficiencies and optimizations of where you can improve your processes internally. So this ensures long-term sustainability and financial investment internally within your organization. The next steps look at on-site renewable energy to reduce carbon, secure financial benefits over time, and increase resiliency. The last and final phase of the best management practices is to look to off-site renewable energy in the form of renewable energy credits or carbon credits, which can be used to fill any necessary gaps once you set your goal and you look inward and you exhaust all your internal options. So that's best management practices usually since that at the last option. The presentation also included a list of already identified actions that are in various stages of evaluation, planning, and or implementation. So these include the LED light bulb replacement, maximization of biogas at the Northside Wastewater Treatment Plant, some small on-site solar arrays, low-emission vehicle replacement, land management as carbon sinks, and various I&I projects. Okay, our list of emission reduction tools also includes Duke Energy's carbon plan, where they have committed to an additional 19% by 2030. They had committed to 70%, but they only have 19% left to go between now and 2030. So it was also noted that the funding for these projects, to move these projects forward, is already included in the budget. It's funded at $1 million this fiscal year, and additionally, staff has already begun looking at ways that we can gain efficiency, leverage additional funding that has come about in the last few months, such as the Inflation Reduction Act and other funding sources that have passed in the past few months to look for win-win solutions in leveraging those funds. We've met with NCDEQ, the Department of Energy, North Carolina Clean Technology Center, as well as UNC Charlotte to investigate partnerships where we can create innovative solutions for our community. An evaluation of these projects, their projected emissions reductions, along with a look at standards within our industry and other types of organizations, led staff to recommend 2 separate goals for the committee this month. The first goal that we recommended of the 2 was a quote-unquote industry standard goal. And that industry standard goal is a reduction from the 2.4, which is the baseline 2019 number, down to 1.5 metric tons of CO2 equivalents per million gallons a day. And the reason that was chosen is that EPA Energy Star program for wastewater energy entities, that's where they set it's kind of the industry standard. There's not a lot of industry standards out there for water, wastewater utilities. So we had to look hard for them. And that's where we landed, as well as and that aligns also with the emissions reduction projections that our existing projects that we've already identified. So that 1.5 goal, which is a 37% reduction from our 2019 baseline, aligns with our already identified projects as well as meeting the industry standard. And that's the quote-unquote industry standard goal. The second goal was an aggressive goal. It's the reduction down to 1.2 metric tons of CO2 per million gallons a day. And that represents a 50% reduction from our 2019 baseline. This goal aligns with the Paris Climate Agreement and is a more aggressive goal for CFPUA. Our baseline is 2019, as I've said a few times, and this goal, some may not consider it aggressive, but the 2005 baseline is where many of the entities that subscribe to the Paris Climate Agreement, they set their baseline at 2005. CFPUA's baseline is at 2019. So there's a distinction of where we're starting from to achieve that 50% goal. So for us, we consider it an aggressive goal. So it's also worth noting that the projections that we included with our projects that we've already identified, they do not include the I&I projects. It does include Duke Energy's 19%, but it doesn't include I&I projects. Each of the I&I projects that we will move forward with, and as we do each year, will be measured on a case-by-case basis. Each one has its own unique benefits, and they'll have to be evaluated on each individual project. We've done a great job over the years of reducing I&I and preventing SSOs, but we haven't done as great a job of collecting and calculating those ancillary benefits, such as cost savings and emissions reductions associated with those projects to reduce SSOs and improve our operations. So an example of this, and I think you saw it in your packet for your long-range planning committee, is the Burnt Mill Creek project that was moved forward, and that was the lining of that project. And although it did a great job reducing SSOs, it also, whenever you sit down and we calculated it back, there was 536,000 gallons a day of I&I reduction, which results in an annual cost savings of $653,000 a year, and reduced carbon emissions of 296 metric tons a year. So that's just one example of the many, many projects of I&I projects we've done through the years, but we haven't really calculated or took credit for the ancillary benefits that we have gained from those. So we will be working with our engineering and operations groups moving forward more closely with making sure that we capture those as well. And we're already working with them on projects as we move forward, getting in on the ground floor of some of the planning phases of those projects to look at more sustainability and resiliency opportunities as those are coming forward. So, which comes to the end of this. So the objective of this presentation was to, as we move into the future, was to move us towards setting an achievable goal that's also challenging for staff. The committee expressed a desire to be more aggressive than simply implementation of the existing projects, and to challenge staff to continue to push forward for innovation, efficiencies, and optimization opportunities. So, however, the 50% reduction seemed a bit too aggressive given our current environment, and for some, given our current environment and some of the projects that are slated in the near future. Therefore, the discussions among committee members about the two goals resulted in a compromise and a request that staff revisit the project's progress and changing conditions each year to determine if adjustments are needed. The committee recommended the adoption of a goal to reduce our carbon emissions by 43%, which we split the difference between the 37 and the 50. And so 43% as compared to our 2019 baseline by 2030, which also equates to a total reduction from 2.4 metric tons of carbon equivalents per million gallons a day down to 1.37 million gallons of carbon equivalents per million gallons a day. So,
thank you so much. Basically, our carbon footprint hopefully is just going to be going down. Right. So
we can hope so.
That's sort of our goal, obviously. Thank you very much, Ms.
Welcome.
for that presentation. Yes, sir.
Just a comment. Beth, thank you. You just crammed in a whole lot of really kind of complicated stuff into a really, I found, coherent message. So thank you. And I just what I love about this, the 43% reduction is not pie in the sky. We're not, shooting for the stars and beyond. It's something that's totally within our capability of being able to do as an organization. Would you agree?
I agree.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much. Thank you. So we need a vote because it's part of our strategic plan and we're adopting this formally.
So as a goal of the entire organization, we want to affirm that goal at the board level, since we will then be bringing projects and spending resources to try to achieve that goal. And the recommendation of the committee was a goal of 43% reduction by 2030.
Yes, sir.
Given the current, I watch the news occasionally, and this quest for reducing the carbon footprint hasn't worked out so well on a national level. I am all for efficiency and that kind of stuff, but as far as setting a goal, I want to make sure if we're setting these goals, 50% reduction, is there going to be, what are the costs associated with that? At some point in time, is Carl going to go, well, we can't provide, the amount of water and sewer we provide right now because, we're saving the planet, we're reducing our carbon footprint. Or you're going to go to our ratepayers and say, you're going to pay 10% more because we're reducing our carbon footprint. And, I don't think those people are voting for that. So I want to make sure that we're not hamstringing our operation going forward. As Wes Quarter said, this organization runs on diesel fuel and electricity and not unicorns and fairy dust. So, I want to be realistic. Understand you've come to this organization with these goals, but I want to be realistic that we still provide the services that we all came here to provide.
100% valid questions, and I agree.
Because, I hear a lot of stuff up here
Right.
promising, these reductions, but I don't, I want to know what it's going to cost and what are going to be the benefits as we go down this road.
Absolutely, and that is completely valid. We are a very energy-intensive industry. There's no way to do what we do without burning fossil fuels. There's no question about that.
I just want that established.
No, absolutely. And I think it's important that this group as a committee, as an organization, is also addressing affordability. It's absolutely, you've got to make this so that people can still afford to get their water. Most of the projects that we've already started and have identified are almost pay themselves back in terms of efficiencies. Most of the gains we're having in reducing our carbon footprint is through efficiencies. So, and the cost, we've budgeted ourselves $1 million a year, max as of right now, for these types of projects. So that's sort of the big picture. I'm sure Ken has some.
We budgeted $1 million this year. Next year, it might be $1.5 million. Next year, it might be $2 million. We're going down a rabbit hole. I want to make sure it's an efficient rabbit holes, and I'm old school and I bristle at some of this stuff, but reusable, renewable, the stuff Larry's been talking about, I see that as a way in my industry, but this other stuff, it's out there and it's not tangible to me, and I apologize for that, but it all comes down to rates.
Right.
And the ability to deliver, period. There's nothing else in my mind. If a hurricane hits and we can't deliver, they don't care what our carbon footprint is. Right. Back when we couldn't deliver diesel fuel and we were running out of water. So I just want to make that clear.
Well, and sustainability is actually part of sustainability is making sure you're ready for those.
I get that, but that term is also used as a broad brush for other things that don't necessarily have anything to do with the basics of water and sewer. I just want to make sure that we're clear.
I hear you, and in our committee, that doesn't happen. It's a very sober group of 4 people who care about this organization, so I can assure you that those things are being addressed.
I'm sure. Deans, I had your same concerns, and so I brought them to staff, and I said, look, at the end of the day, it's just going to be more expensive for the ratepayer, and was assured by staff that, and it wasn't reflected completely in the minutes here, but was assured by staff that a 30 to 43%, whatever we were looking at, was an attainable goal that would not result in a rate increase to the end user.
I mean, we've always said that our staff, especially the operational staff, is some of the best. And if they go along with it and they think it's achievable, I'm all for it. I just don't want them to be left out of the equation and then we be stuck
Absolutely
10, 15
agreed.
years down from now trying to achieve some goal that is not attainable. Period. That's it. I'll shut up.
I would share as a reminder and an affirmation of what Mr. Waddell said. We are proposing over the next 10 years, $10 million of the CIP, which is a little less than 2% of the total CIP towards efficiency and sustainability projects. We tie those together. We think we can accomplish this goal with that funding level. If we're wrong, we will come back and talk to the board and see if that's still the goal or if we need to do some adjustment.
How much of that is reliant upon electric vehicles?
Very, very minimal.
Very minimal.
That's a little, but yeah, the bulk of what we're getting is coming from Duke.
Coming from what?
Duke Energy. As part of their overall reducing their carbon footprint, that's gonna reduce our carbon.
Yeah, Dean, if I can address something, you brought up great points, and that was a part of the discussion, within the committee. The thing that caught my attention was just mentioned again about the vast majority of these savings are coming from outside us, which is coming through the work that Duke is doing. But if we do nothing different from what we do today, you get a 37% reduction. You do nothing different, 37% there. So the stretch goal, I guess, is what we're looking at, is that it's actually 6%. And it's a goal that will be monitored on a, certainly month by month or yearly. If we see anything, as you're referring to, it's going to cost our customers, or if we, I think you'll see from that committee and our staff, it will raise a red flag. 37% of that, of what we're talking about here, is already going to happen. You do nothing different than what we're doing right today. To me, that
makes
is
me
a
feel
large
better.
part of it.
Those numbers kind of work.
All right, so we have a.
So we have a motion on the table
Yep, motion.
to adopt.
Who made the motion?
What's the?
Our committee.
The committee.
Dr. Henry made the motion. Who seconded it?
We don't have a second yet.
Second.
There we go.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to human resources, Mr. Briggs.
Thank you. Human Resources met on August the 30th, and an update on the strategic initiatives of the employment leadership development were presented. The leadership development program has been developed using an external group for approximately 80 employees that supervise others. So the participants are divided into cohorts and will stay together to complete up to a 19 module over a 12-month period. That equates to about 25 to 43 hour class time. The scope of the committee also agreed to move forward with the RFP for consulting services to complete a DE&I assessment. The scope of the assessment will include interviews with employees, data gathering and current practices, policy review, and the review of communications. The cross-functional, the team of 6 to 8 employees from different areas will be developed and begin to work in DE&I education, recommendations for defining DE&I. The teams will be prepared to recommend implementations, activities as we receive the results. Both items were reviewed in the Finance Committee to secure funding as appropriate, and the full minutes and presentation from the meeting are in your board packets. Any additional comments?
Thank you, Ms. Briggs.
Look forward to seeing the results.
Thank you. Me too.
All right, moving on to item 9, any old business for the board? All right. Questions, closing comments? Let's go into closed session. now.
Yes, I'd like to go into closed session to discuss a claim and also discuss CFPUA versus Camores and DuPont.
I move that we go into closed session. and
Second.
Discuss those things.
Any staff member need to remain? Sorry.
No.
Give me 5 minutes to get this thing.
Yeah.
Okay.